Welcome to the Emerging Youth Workers channel. Here, you'll find valuable information on working with young people. If you find this video helpful, please subscribe to our channel. Understanding the impact of trauma is crucial for anyone working with young people. In this video, we will explore the definition of trauma, its forms, and its effects on youth. This knowledge is key for developing supportive practices. Let's begin by defining trauma. Trauma is an experience involving exposure to a significant threat or harm, leading to negative effects on a young person's well-being and ability to function. The Australian Institute of Health and Welfare defines trauma as exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence. The impact of such events can be both physical and mental, and individuals will respond differently. This highlights the need for youth workers to adopt personalised approaches that recognise each young person's unique experience. The Australian Psychological Society describes trauma as powerful and upsetting incidents that intrude into daily life. These experiences are life-threatening or pose a significant threat to a person's physical or psychological well-being. Trauma disrupts daily life through intrusive memories and thoughts. It includes threats to psychological well-being, such as emotional abuse and neglect. The Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists defines trauma by its broad psychological and neurobiological effects. Trauma results from events that produce overwhelming feelings of fear, stress, helplessness, or horror. This emphasises the impact of trauma on the brain and nervous system, suggesting the need for interventions that support regulation and recovery. What are the core elements that characterise a traumatic experience? Firstly, there is a perceived or actual threat to safety, whether physical or emotional. This perception is deeply personal and influenced by past experiences. Secondly, there is often a feeling of helplessness or powerlessness during the event or its aftermath. Thirdly, intense emotional distress is common, characterized by overwhelming fear, stress, or other negative emotions. Trauma often has lasting adverse effects on well-being. Finally, the subjective experience of the event is crucial. The impact is determined by the individual's perception and their capacity to cope. Trauma isn't just one thing, it manifests in various forms, each with unique characteristics and potential impacts. Single-incident trauma results from a one-time traumatic event, such as a car accident, a natural disaster, or a single instance of assault. While it is a singular event, the severity and an individual's response can still lead to significant and lasting consequences, sometimes developing into PTSD. Common responses can include emotional numbness, shock, intense fear, a feeling of helplessness, avoidance, negative thoughts, and physical symptoms. Complex trauma arises from repeated or prolonged exposure to traumatic events, often interpersonal in nature. This can include ongoing abuse, neglect, bullying, or domestic violence. This form of trauma often has a pervasive and long-lasting impact due to its chronic and relational nature. Key characteristics include multiple incidents over time, often within caregiving systems where trust is betrayed. Individuals may struggle with self-perception, managing emotions, and forming healthy relationships. Developmental trauma refers to trauma experienced during critical periods of infancy, childhood, and adolescence. This can have significant and long-lasting impacts on a young person's developmental trajectory. Common sources include neglect, abuse, exposure to family violence, and high levels of parental conflict. These experiences can profoundly affect a child's ability to regulate emotions and behaviors, their cognitive development, and their capacity for healthy social relationships. CPTSD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, can develop after repeated or prolonged trauma, leading to difficulties with emotional regulation, self-esteem, and relationships. Intergenerational trauma describes the transmission of trauma and its psychological and physiological effects across multiple generations within a family or community. In Australia, this is particularly relevant for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples due to the enduring impacts of colonisation, the policies of the stolen generations, and ongoing systemic racism. Finally, vicarious trauma refers to the emotional and psychological stress experienced by individuals indirectly exposed to others' traumatic experiences, often through their work in helping professions. This is particularly relevant for youth workers who interact with young people who have experienced trauma. Symptoms include sadness, anxiety, emotional exhaustion, and intrusive thoughts. Organizations must support their staff's well-being to mitigate this risk. Trauma affects nearly every aspect of a young person's life. Let's explore the multi-dimensional impact of these experiences. Trauma can leave lasting physical marks. Survivors of traumatic injuries may experience ongoing physical consequences that significantly affect their lives. The body's stress response, the fight or flight mechanism, can manifest in symptoms like headaches, changes in appetite, increased blood pressure, chest pain, and sleep difficulties. Prolonged stress from trauma can contribute to chronic conditions like heart disease and irritable bowel syndrome. Childhood trauma can have enduring effects on physical health, potentially impacting brain development and the release of stress hormones, increasing the risk of chronic diseases. Physical and mental health are interconnected. A physical injury can contribute to mental health problems and vice versa, highlighting the need for a holistic approach to care. Psychologically, trauma can fundamentally alter a young person's sense of well-being, their ability to connect with others, and their perception of themselves and the world. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a common psychological consequence, with symptoms like reliving the event through intrusive memories, nightmares, flashbacks, avoiding reminders, experiencing negative thoughts and feelings, and being in a state of heightened arousal or hypervigilance. Trauma can also contribute to other mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety disorders, and substance use disorders, and behaviours related to self-harm and suicide. Studies in Australia have found a high prevalence of childhood trauma among young people accessing mental health services, often alongside symptoms of depression, anxiety, and even psychosis. Early trauma significantly increases the likelihood of developing mental health or substance use disorders later in life, emphasizing the importance of early identification and intervention. Emotionally, trauma can lead to intense and overwhelming emotions, as well as difficulties in regulating these feelings, or conversely, a sense of emotional detachment and numbness. Common emotional reactions include anger, fear, sadness, and shame. Childhood trauma is a major contributing factor to mental ill health in young people, significantly increasing their risk of developing conditions like depression, anxiety, and personality disorders, as well as increasing the risk of suicide and substance abuse. Research in Australia indicates that a large majority of young people attending youth mental health services report high levels of childhood trauma. The emotional toll of trauma can also impact family relationships, social interactions, and the ability to engage in work or study, often leading to increased irritability, feelings of grief, despair, and loneliness. Cognitive functioning can be significantly affected by trauma, leading to difficulties with concentration, memory, and decision-making. Childhood trauma can disrupt neural connections in the brain, impairing focus, attention span, and decision-making abilities. Cognitive impairments are common among trauma-affected populations, often interacting with PTSD symptoms and physical pain. Studies link childhood trauma to impairments in memory, processing speed, and attention, especially in those with anxiety, mood, and psychotic disorders. Trauma impacts children's cognitive development, language skills, and self-identity. Early traumatic experiences can disrupt these fundamental developmental processes. Socially, trauma can create barriers to forming and maintaining healthy relationships, leading to trust issues and social isolation. Trauma exposure is common among vulnerable groups in Australia, including those in out-of-home care, youth justice, refugees, and those experiencing homelessness or family violence. Understanding these multifaceted impacts of trauma is essential for developing effective and compassionate support for young people. Recognizing the various ways trauma can affect their lives, we can create environments and implement practices that promote healing, resilience, and well-being. Access all resources through my channel page for further reading and learning. Please like this video and subscribe to the Emerging Youth Workers channel for more insightful content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you more valuable resources and information. Thank you for being a part of our community.